time to turn that video off.
Okay, we are on air and it looks like it is time. So I will call our meeting to order. Good evening, everyone. I will call our regular city council meeting to order, being held in person in the Richfield Municipal Center of October 11th, 2022. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. For everyone who is able to, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. The next item on our agenda is the open forum. This is an opportunity from anyone from the public to come and address the city council. It's not a time for discussion, but if there's something you want to share with us, you have up to 3 minutes to share your item. This is different and separate from the public hearings we do have today. So if you're specifically here for a public hearing, this is not the time to share, but when that public hearing and that item come up, you can let us know that you would like to speak. So I will open the open forum just for people who want to participate. There's a couple different ways to participate. You can be here in person and sign a card, or if you didn't get a card, you could just let us know that you're interested in speaking. You can also call into the open forum by phone. And the phone number is on the website and on the agenda, and the number is 1-415-655-0001. Then you would dial the webinar access code of 2466-475-1899, and the password is 1234. You can also submit your comments via email to our staff, and they will read those comments if you'd like to submit them via email. So we do have one person that wanted to say something about waste management. So we have Stephen Nelson. If you'd like to come up to the podium here, if you want to share your name and then your address, and then you have up to 3 minutes to share your comments.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Steve Nelson. I live at 6324 Blaisdell. Management 4 or 5 different times during my lunch break, and either they've had too many phone calls or is connected to the wrong person. A recent statement today I got in the mail was for $435 for waste management. It says it's in collection. That affects my credit rating, and if this assessment goes through on my property, I believe the Hennepin County can auction my property if it's not paid. Is that correct?
So, and actually, this is relating to one of the items on our agenda number 5. So if you do have questions and we can discuss it more on that item. So if you're fine holding tight till we get to that item, sorry, I didn't see that that was related. So if you want to have a seat, but if you want to share your question again, briefly.
Well, how am I being assessed this
Okay,
assessment when I didn't eat the steak?
okay,
I never had the steak,
okay.
you know.
And I think we do have a couple people here for this item. So if you would like to take a seat, this is on our agenda, and we have an opportunity to call this item up, and then we will discuss it then, if that's
Very well.
okay. Thank you so much. Any other people here in person for anything that's not on the agenda, just general open forum? Okay, and then I just wanted to ask, I can look. It looks like we don't have anybody on the line that has called in, okay? And it looks like we don't have anyone here for general comments for the open forum. They're all items on the agenda. So seeing as we don't have anyone for the open forum, I will close the open forum and move to the next item. And that is the approval of the minutes of the City Council work session of September 27th, 2022, and the regular City Council meeting of September 27th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The minutes have been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on the minutes from council? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The minutes have been approved. The next item is our presentations. We do have one presentation, which is a proclamation in recognition of November as Native American Heritage Month. And we do have a Human Rights Commission member, Tyler Olson, here to receive the proclamation. So Tyler, if you'd like to join me up to the front, and I will read the proclamation. Thank you for joining us. Now I will read our proclamation. Whereas the indigenous people of the Santee, which is in eastern bands of the Dakotas nations, have lived upon the land of modern-day Richfield since time immemorial, and whereas the Santee people of the Dakota Nation were subject to ethnic cleansing and displaced from their homeland through coerced acceptance of land cessation treaties, particularly those of 1837 and 1851, which were inequitable from the start and ultimately executed in bad faith by local and federal government entities. And whereas the city of Richfield strives to eliminate systemic racism and discrimination towards Indigenous peoples, to celebrate and honor Indigenous peoples, to better honor their experiences, and to hold and esteem their roots, history, and contributions to our culture, and to dedicate this effort of months of intentional reflection. And whereas November is recognized as National Native American Heritage Month, and whereas the city of Richfield recognizes the month of November 2022 as Native American Heritage Month to promote authentic appreciation, tolerance, reconciliation, understanding, friendship, and continued participation among all its people of the Indigenous peoples of this land. Now, therefore, I, Maria Regan Gonzalez, Mayor of Richfield, on behalf of the Richfield City Council, do hereby proclaim November 2022 as Native American Heritage Month in the city of Richfield, and call upon all of Richfield to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, ceremonies, and continue to honor the contributions of Indigenous Americans throughout the year proclaimed this 11th day of October 2022. So thank you for joining us, Tyler, and for receiving this. Do you have anything you'd like to say, or you're just here to receive? All right, well, thank you so much, and please extend the gratitude to our Human Rights Commission. Anything from our council members that you'd like to share? All right, thank you so much. Thanks. Okay, the next item is the approval of the agenda.
I would move the agenda with one addition, which is now added in as item 7 at the end of the public hearings. They would add a public hearing and consider a resolution adopting the proposed assessments of delinquent utility accounts, false alarm charges, public health or safety hazard charges, weed eradication charges, and vacant property registration fees to be certified to property taxes.
Second.
Thank you. There has been a motion with an amendment to add item number 7 onto the agenda and a second. Any comments or questions on that? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The agenda is approved. Thank you. The next item is the consent calendar, which is read by our city manager, Katie Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further council action on these items is necessary. On tonight's consent calendar, item A, consider the approval of the first reading of an ordinance amending section 925 of the Richfield City Code to include new language addressing what refuse is and the accumulation of it. Item B, consider a resolution authorizing staff to submit an application for a Hennepin County Youth Sports Program facility grant to expand the Oxford Park Skate Park and execute a grant agreement if awarded. Item C, consider the approval of the bid tabulation and award and a contract to U.S. Site Work, Inc. for the Sheridan Pond Maintenance Project Phase 1 in the amount of $223,450 and authorize the city manager to approve contract changes up to $175,000 without further city council consideration. Item D, consider the renewal of the Public Health and Environmental Health Mutual Aid Agreement. And I submit these items for your consideration as part of the consent calendar.
I'll move acceptance of the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any comments or questions on the consent calendar? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The consent calendar has been approved. The next item, now we are into the public hearings. I know a lot of folks are here for that. Is with Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 5 is a public hearing and consider a resolution adopting the proposed assessment for unpaid garbage collection services from private property within the residential organized collection system from October 4th, 2021 to July 31st, 2022. Garbage, recycling, organics, and yard waste services for most residential properties in the city is provided through the city's organized collection program established in 2021. The city requires service to be provided by the haulers even if a resident has not paid their service bills, as not having waste picked up is a public health concern. As a result of this requirement, the city agreed to take on the assessment process to resolve unpaid balances. As of October 3rd, 2022, city staff has determined the actual assessment costs of unpaid garbage collection services from October 4th, 2021 to July 31st, 2022 to be $100,268.94. This amount will continue to be adjusted as assessments are paid by owners or residents before being sent to the county. And before we open the public hearing to hear from residents, would city staff like to add any further clarification?
No, we're available for questions.
I guess I will maybe ask, knowing that this assessment process is, and we've got a few different variations of assessments, it can be confusing for folks who haven't been through it before. If staff could just clarify, sometimes people come and are just, I want to pay this, I don't want it assessed. Could staff just walk through the process for folks who are just hoping to get this taken care of?
Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. The city does not take payments since the haulers are the ones who bill owners and residents. So if folks are looking to pay their bill, they will have to contact their hauler. And since we're outside of business hours, that will have to be done starting tomorrow. So obviously we can provide hauler information such as email addresses and phone numbers, but we cannot take payment.
Okay, thank you. At this point then, I would open the public hearing for folks who are here to, again, this is not a back and forth conversation, it's simply a time for comment. Folks who have specific questions, staff will follow up with you after, but we have up to 3 minutes per person. You can come up to the microphone to share. So is anyone here for the public hearing on the organized collection assessments.
And Mr. Nelson, I think this is the item that you had your question on, correct, was with the garbage. So, yep, if you can come back.
Yeah.
And then in terms of if people do have questions, given it is a public hearing and staff can answer, is this something that staff can answer if they can during the meeting, or do you prefer that you follow up with the community member after, based on the question?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on the complexity of the situation.
Okay.
But I'm definitely taking notes on
Thank
everyone
you.
who has comments.
All right, thank you. You can go ahead, Mr. Nelson. Thank you so much.
I've been a 53-year resident of Richfield, and like I said, I've never had the containers on my domicile, so never had their service. So how can I be charged the bill and the city come in and assess tax, lien, what have you on said property? And second of all, how are you going to enforce that? About it. Nothing, a hit to my credit rating for not paying a bill that I'd never had service. Just doesn't make sense. If I had the service and I owed it, I'd probably pay it. But I've never had service from Waste Management. And that's the way I'm looking at it. I don't think I owe anybody anything. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Sorry, we were clarifying process. Is there anyone else who would like to come and speak to this? Yeah, come up to the mic, please. Thank you. And when you come up, if you could share your name and address for the record.
My name is Linda Minch. I live at 6428 16th Avenue South. And I've been getting bills, which I have returned to Waste Management. They have my address on, but this is not me. The account is not, this is not my name. I've never heard of these people. And I've written back to them every single time I've gotten a statement. I'm assuming that's what's in here. I'm not going to open it because it's someone else's mail, nor am I going to pay their bills. Anyways, and I've never heard anything back, except I got this again today then. And I, too, do not have service. So I don't know what to do about this, because I dispose of my garbage in my church's dumpster. I used to work at the school, and when I did, I had permission just to take it's just me and my son now, and take our garbage up there once a week or once a month or whatever we happen to have and dispose of it. And so that's what I've always done. When I got the letter that we're switching over to this citywide service, it said that our present service would be switched over, but I didn't have a present service. So I don't know who these people are, and I don't know what to do with their mail. I keep sending it back, but next month or whatever, however often these go out, I get it again. So I just want to know what I do to clear my name.
Yes, well, thank you for the comments. Again, we won't do the troubleshooting in the public meeting, but Rachel Lindholm here from city staff would be the person to connect with, who I think would maybe even be willing to talk with people out in the lobby as they're leaving today, or follow up with after.
Well, I'll
what would you
definitely
prefer?
follow up for sure. As long as I get contact information, that's the basic thing that I'll need. So if you all have filled out cards with your contact information, that's the best thing here.
Okay, and where would those cards be at this point? Are they still at the back table?
Is there a piece of paper there where you're standing
No.
and a pen? No? Okay.
There are pens here.
I'll bring some paper over.
Yeah, well, before folks who have specific questions want to troubleshoot with staff, make sure they have
I
your
was
contact
also
info
sent-
before you go.
I was.
And then we want to come up here? Oh,
All right, so as we're making sure we can follow up with folks with specific questions, are there any additional people who are here to speak to this public hearing item on the garbage collection?
And I think there is one person. Señor, ¿usted quiere venir y hablar y decir algo? Sí, okay, si quiere puede venir conmigo. I know he was here for the garbage. ¿Está bien? Ujú, claro, está bien. Si quiere decir su nombre y dónde vive antes de compartir sus comentarios.
Gracias. My name is Miguel Murcia, and I live in 7329 Penn Avenue in Richfield. And well, my question is about the garbage too, because since they started in October last year, in the first week, I called already, I don't know how many times, because they don't give me, even one lady, she said, okay, I think you have to sell your house if you don't want to pay the garbage. And I say, okay, it's a good idea. But the thing is, I told, I don't know how many times, and in the second week, I told with somebody, and she said, wait, and she shake in the computer and the system, and she said, actually, don't worry, you're not an assistant. I said, okay, cool. But then, I asked her to remove the cans, and the second week, they removed the cans from the house. And after that, I started to receive the bills, and I called, and I talked with the person in charge of this area, and she said, okay, we send you an application. And she sent me an application, and my daughter, she filled for me, we send them, but then I don't receive any answer, and then they start to send me the bills. And it's supposed to, I don't know, I think I don't have to pay because I never get the service, until now. Now I received this letter about I have to come in here. And I don't know, what can I do now?
Want to put your phone number, your contact information, and then we'll have Rachel call you back.
Okay. Oh, yes, Richard, that's her name. But
If you want to.
okay, muy bien, gracias.
All right, thank you to everyone who came to speak. Is there anyone else here for this public hearing about garbage collection? Final call for this public hearing. Then I would make a motion to close this public hearing.
Second.
All right. The motion has been made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The public hearing has been closed. And then I just wanted to make sure, did we get your contact information? Okay, you can just put it up there. And then I think we have everybody's contact info who wanted to speak. Thank you so much for coming. Okay.
And for specific individuals, again, Rachel will be able to work through the details. For anyone listening in, just to clarify, since the organized collection program was started in 2021, there is a very specific process to qualify to opt out. And you can't just choose. You have to have proof that you have an alternate method for your trash disposal. And if you feel that is the case for your situation, Rachel can explain that. But for the most part, every household has to be part of the organized collection process and would therefore receive those bills unless they have done that specific process. So again, Rachel will be the one to work through specifics for individuals who have questions. And if anyone listening is in that camp too, that information and Rachel's contact info is on the city website. But I would go ahead and then make the motion that we adopt a resolution adopting the assessment for costs incurred for unpaid garbage collection services between October 4th, 2021 to July 31st, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Councilmember Supple.
I know Councilmember Whalen just sort of went through this, but I would like if staff could talk about what the procedures are if there's a dispute and what the steps are for those people that are watching or watching the replay of this. If we could just take people through the steps one more time, that would be helpful. Thank you.
So if residents are confused or concerned about their assessment letter and need more information or would like to talk to me about it, they can email or call me. My phone number is 612-861-9188. And my email address is rlindholm@richfieldmn.gov. And as long as I have their address, basically, I can look up what we have on the city side, and as well as contact the hauler to get any account details that are necessary. And we can kind of go from there. So details like the residents provided tonight of whether they had carts on site, carts were removed, anything like that is very helpful for me in understanding what the background of the system or the story is and what each hauler has done at each address very slightly. So all the details are helpful, and then I can go through with the hauler and figure out what's going on here, what needs to be adjusted, or if the assessment amount is correct.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
City Attorney.
Go ahead,
Mayor and
City
Council,
Attorney.
and just to add to that, if it's, and Rachel can correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's found to be a legitimate explanation and the property owner should not have been charged, or then it will be removed and it would not be assessed to the property.
That's correct.
Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
And just a couple of clarifications on when this rolled out. So first off, anybody who was approved for an opt-out would not be on this list. Is that correct?
Who was approved?
Who was approved for an opt-out, they are not being charged for the month.
So
Right.
it depends on the date that their exemption form was approved. If they had any service before that date, as we get further along, most people have had some sort of service before their exemption. Obviously, those charges are still relevant and need to be paid. And that is the case for some folks who have gone through the exemption process but might have charges from before their exemption date. And those are all things that I can help clarify.
Okay, thanks. And then just also to clarify, if they didn't previously have service, everybody still received bins initially, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you. My comment was just for anyone here, anyone listening, to be very clear from if this is adopted in a moment here when we vote, you still have 30 days from tonight to resolve things, work with staff, pay off what you owe, and it would not be assessed. So your 30 days is the timeline you're working with.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Okay. Now, I think the motion was made and seconded, and we voted on it, so that item is, oh, we haven't voted. Okay. Any other comments or questions? We were in the discussion. Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved. Okay, the next item goes to Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Thank you. This item is a public hearing and consideration of resolutions adopting the annual Interstate Lindale-Nicollet, or ILN, project area assessment and proposed work for 2023. The ILN project area assessment was established to recover special maintenance expenses in the 77th Street area starting in 1988. Those current services include maintenance and operation of irrigation systems, weed control, mowing, fertilization, trash and litter removal, and replantings. These current services are provided on both sides of the 77th Street wall. The maintenance functions are funded through a maintenance assessment on 77th Street commercial properties. Does Steph need to add anything at this point, or? No? Okay. So this is also a public hearing. If anybody wishes to speak on the assessments for that 77th Street corridor. So I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Councilmember Whalen?
Do we want to, I don't know that we typically don't receive
Yeah,
comments on
good
this,
point.
but do we want to give people time to call in if they were trying to?
So to reiterate, that people could call in as they do for the open forum at 415-655-0001. No, thank you. It's on the screen now. So we'll give it about 30 seconds if anybody is calling in. All right, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The public hearing has been closed.
I move that we adopt a resolution adopting the assessment on the ILN project area for costs incurred to maintain the area for 2021.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved.
And I would also make a motion to adopt a resolution ordering the undertaking of the current service project within the ILN project area for 2023.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved. All right, the next item goes to Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a public hearing and to consider a resolution adopting the proposed assessments of delinquent utility accounts, false alarm charges, public health or safety hazards charges, weed eradication charges, and vacant property registration fees to be certified to property taxes. Minnesota State Statutes 444.075, 429.101, and 429.061 provide that certain unpaid charges may be assessed against the benefiting property. Chapter 7 of the Richfield Code of Ordinances provide that unpaid water, sanitary, sewer, stormwater, and streetlight charges may be certified to the county auditor to be included in a property owner's annual property tax bill. Section 925.02, Subdivision 5, Section 915.07, Subdivision 3, and Chapter 8.02 of the City Charter provide that the city is allowed to specially assess delinquent fees. City Code also authorizes a certification fee to be charged against each delinquent account. By certifying the delinquent charges to the property taxes, the city is assured of collection of the charges. The delinquent accounts must be certified to the county auditor in order for the city to collect the charges through the property tax payment process. Property owners have been notified that any unpaid charges or fees may be assessed against their property. Does staff have anything additional to add for this item?
Good evening, Councilmember Whalen. Staff is here to answer any questions that residents may have here.
Okay. Similarly, this is a public hearing. We won't troubleshoot specific questions, but we'll make sure that they are heard by staff, their contact info is passed on, that those can be resolved in that timeline before they go to be assessed. So at this point, I will open the public hearing. Is anyone here to speak to this item? Yeah, come to the mic, please.
Hi, I've got a cold. My name is Barb Orshahovsky. I live at 7314 Oakland, and I'm here about my water bill. And when they changed the meters, there was a glitch, and I got billed for 47,000 gallons a year ago. And I came over, I spoke with Mike, we agreed it should have been 4,000 gallons. He was putting paperwork through. It didn't happen in January, it didn't happen in April. In July, we talked again, and so it was still showing I owed $400 or something. And so then some adjustment was done, and he figured it out to the penny. I paid that day, the $110, whatever my normal bill would be. And now I've gotten 2 assessment letters saying I owe them $116.96, and I don't know why. I've called, my water bill is 0. I have no outstanding balance. So I don't know if this is a different system, different people that aren't talking to each other. That's my comment.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. And again, if you could make sure we have your contact info to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Again, you are able to call in that same number if staff are able to put that back up on the screen. Thank you. But I don't see any call-ins yet. Anyone else here in person to speak to this item? Okay, we'll give folks another 30 seconds if they are trying to call in. As we're waiting, I was just double checking. It looks like for this, if folks would like to pay their amounts before they are due and before they get assessed, the deadline is November 1st for these items. Seeing as we have no one calling in, I would move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any comments? All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The public hearing has been closed.
Then I would make a motion to approve the attached resolution authorizing certification of unpaid water, sanitary sewer, stormwater, and streetlight charges, false alarm charges, public health or safety hazard charges, weed eradication charges, and vacant property registration fees to the county auditor to be collected with other taxes on said properties.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Any comments or questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved. The next item goes to Councilmember Supple. Sorry. Oh, did I get that wrong? Sorry about that. So then does that mean, let's see here. Do you have the next item after that? About that. Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is to consider the second reading of an ordinance adopting Section 625 of the City Code prohibiting conversion therapy for minors and vulnerable adults. The City Council is being asked to consider an ordinance adopting the City Code Section 625 prohibiting conversion therapy for minors and vulnerable adults. The City Council heard a presentation at the June 8th, 2021 council work session on exploring conversion therapy bans in the future. The council supported moving forward with a ban and asked staff and the Richfield Human Rights Commission to begin drafting the ordinance with these protections. On August 4th and September 6th, 2022 meetings, the Human Rights Commission reviewed the ordinance presented by staff, and based on the discussions with the Human Rights Commission during these meetings, staff made updates to the proposed ordinance, and the Human Rights Commission recommended the ordinance sent on to council, City Council for review and formal approval. As the council has already discussed this ordinance during a work session, staff is recommending the adoption of this ordinance. And so just a little bit of background on this ordinance. The proposed ordinance would ban conversion therapy for minors and vulnerable adults. In Richfield, the proposed ordinance defines conversion therapy or reparative therapy as any practice or treatment by a provider that seeks to change an individual's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and really address, I appreciate that staff put this in. Why pass an ordinance banning conversion therapy? And research shows that conversion therapy is harmful for those that have undergone this practice, and particularly a national survey of LGBTQ plus youth showed that 42% of LGBTQ plus youth who have undergone conversion therapy and have attempted suicide, compared to 17% of those who have not. And so this ordinance was reviewed by our city manager, by our attorney, and our director of public safety, and the public health administrator, and it was modeled on the model passed by a number of cities. And as someone who, in there's about 2 pages of summary that I won't read into the record, but as an attorney who cares about the Constitution, there are constitutional exceptions and protections for folks to be able to practice their faith, but we also want to protect all of our community members, and I believe this this ordinance accomplishes that. And so with that, I would turn it over to staff. Does staff have any comments?
We're available if you have questions.
All right, then I would move that we approve the attached ordinance adopting section 622 of the city code prohibiting conversion therapy for minors and vulnerable adults. And can I make a motion for both? Thank you. And approve a resolution authorizing the summary publication of said ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. The 2 motions have been made and seconded. Any comments or questions from council? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Just to clarify, and staff can confirm if my understanding is right, this is basically, we're passing sort of a backup from the current governor decree or whatever it's called, executive order. So we are not duplicating what's currently in place, but this is a backup for Richfield should that governor's executive order, which currently bans it statewide, expire. Is that correct?
Councilmember, yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Whalen.
I just want to say that this absolutely, this harmful practice should be banned. Even calling it therapy is, just not accurate. But I just want to say we were really close to having this kind of ban at the state level permanently put into law. I will get on my soapbox for this moment. It was one of many things that Senate Republican leadership at the state level blocked from passing in the last couple of years. And this is as Councilmember Troutman read the statistics, this is just common sense of preventing suicide. Even if you, everyone deserves to have their sexual orientation, their gender expression, their gender identity affirmed, celebrated. But even if you need it boiled down to just saving lives, that's what this is about. So I'm excited that we are passing this back up at the local level, and I hope that it becomes irrelevant as we get a statewide ban or a nationwide ban in the near future.
Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. Councilmember Supple.
I'm fully in support of this ordinance, and I want to also thank the Human Rights Commission. This was something that came up through the Human Rights Commission that was studied and recommended to the council, and then there was a work session, and it was studied, and we went through, and staff went through the process to make sure that it was a well-written ordinance. And so I want to thank everybody that contributed to that process, and I fully support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Supple. Other comments? Okay, I'll just also say thank you very much to Mara Glubka, who is here today, and our Human Rights Commission that helped spearhead this initiative within the Human Rights Commission, to our Human Rights Commission and to our staff as well. One question that I did get, and I just wanted to share this with our staff and see if they could give more information. First, there is quite a bit of information in the packet itself, so if you would want to learn more, you can go onto the packet and just read through the item. There's also going to be, my understanding is that some of us did an interview with the Star Tribune, so I believe that might be coming out maybe this week. So there'll be a story written up about this as well. But one of the questions that was asked is, now that this will be put in place, what is the enforcement? So my understanding is that, like a lot of our ordinances, this really depends on complaints. If there are violations, if people see or hear of a violation, they report it to the city, and then it's kind of a complaint-based type of enforcement. Is that correct from staff, or what are the main way? How can we let our residents know? How is this going to be enforced?
Mayor and council and our police chief might have more follow-up on this, but yes, the way the ordinance is written, it would be after a report of an alleged violation. So if there are reports of this happening or complaints that are reported to the city, those would be followed up on and investigated.
Thank you.
See, or whether we take administrative action or criminal action for that matter.
Thank you. I know that was just a question that I got, and that when we do pass an ordinance, making sure our residents know how will that be enforced. So if you do hear or see of anything like this going on in our city, please report it to our city staff. Thank you, and I think that's all I had. Any other comments? All right, the motion was made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All approved. Thank you. The ordinance has been passed. Thank you. The next item goes to Councilmember Supple. I had those backwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item is to consider the approval of an interim ordinance authorizing a study and imposing a one-year moratorium on cannabis products. On September 27th, the City Council delayed the first reading of the ordinance to October 11th, 2022. In 2022, the Minnesota legislature passed legislation that authorized the sale of certain edibles and beverages infused with tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, extracted from hemp. The legislation provided limited regulation of these products in Minnesota Statute 151.72 under the Board of Pharmacy, including restrictions and requirements on packaging, labeling, amount of THC, and the sale of these products to those under the age of 21. The cities were consulted during the drafting, cities were not consulted during the drafting of this legislation, but have local concerns that need to be addressed. Though the new law has some regulations on the products, there are significant gaps in state oversight and accountability of the manufacturing and production, testing, and distribution of the products. On September 13th, 2022, staff presented to the City Council in a work session. The presentation included background on the new law, League of Minnesota Cities Work Group update, staff concerns at the city level, 4 options for consideration, staff recommendations, and finally time for questions and discussion. Staff's recommendations to the council was to implement a one-year moratorium and then license the sellers of cannabis products. The purpose of the moratorium is to allow the city time to study the impacts of cannabis products and allow staff time to prepare a licensing ordinance for council consideration. If the council adopts a licensing ordinance before the one-year period is over, it can repeal the moratorium. Did staff want to add anything else?
We received some questions from council members, and we're working on gathering that information, so you'll have it before the second reading, so there can be discussion.
All right, thank you. So I would move to approve the first reading of an interim ordinance authorizing a study and imposing a one-year moratorium on cannabis products, and schedule a second reading for, I believe this has to change. It says here October 11th, but wouldn't it be the next meeting? October 25th. So October 25th, 2022.
Yes, it'll be October 25th.
I would second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Additional comments or questions from council? Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
I will say most of my comments for the second reading should this be approved, but I continue to have concerns that this does not address the public safety issues that have been described. I do not believe we should be moving forward with this, and I will be voting no tonight.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Councilmember Whalen.
I was one of the people who had sent a few questions to staff. I know we'll be having a broader discussion. One additional thing I had thought about since my previous comments, one of the questions I know we need to address in a licensing ordinance whenever we get to that point is where it can be sold and what methods. And I guess one thing I think this could potentially address, I do share some of the concerns that it's an inadequate tool for regulating the use of cannabis products, which is some of the concerns that we've all expressed. But I guess I don't know how likely this is, but if, to the question of would like vending machines start popping up, or we probably have different opinions on what would be a unacceptable place of sale or type of sale. But that and the counterfeit products. And so I think that is something that I had passed on to staff and hope we can discuss more. But I do think the right question is not just, we all agree that we need to get to a licensing ordinance, that we need more research for that, and look forward to the discussion next time of what keeps people safest in the meantime.
Thank you, Councilmember Whalen. Councilmember Supple?
I would support this moratorium simply to give us time to figure out how we should do the licensing and how we can make sure that we're making sure that youth are not having access to it. We have procedures in place for licensing, like cigarette sales that are behind the counter, or compliance checks to make sure people are checking for age appropriateness. So I think since this legislature did not put any of that, or left a lot of those things open to question, we need time to study it and do it well. I do think that we should eventually license it and allow it to be sold in Richfield. I'm not against the product. I just want to make sure that we do it correctly. So I would support the moratorium.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? I appreciate council members sending their comments and questions to staff in advance so that I know staff is following up, and then we'll send to the full council the questions and responses in preparation for our meeting. So thank you for doing that so that we can have a robust conversation and be prepared for that at the next meeting. Other comments or questions? Okay, the motion was made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you. The motion has been approved. Okay, the next item is Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Yes, this is considering resolutions approving a preliminary plat and a final plat in order to subdivide one lot into two, vacation of existing drainage and utility easements to be rededicated with the proposed plat, and an amendment to a planned unit development to accommodate minor modifications triggered by the proposed new lot line at 600 West 64th Street. North Bay Companies, the applicant, is requesting a replat of the property at 600 West 64th Street. The subdivision is one lot. The subdivision of one lot into two will allow the Rich Lynn and Riley apartment buildings to be refinanced separately. The applicant has also requested a vacation of all existing drainage and utility easements granted by the original plat, as they are to be rededicated with the proposed plat. Finally, the proposed subdivision creates the need for additional flexibility from the zoning code in three ways. Number one, the Rich Lynn lot will not meet the 5-foot parking setback requirement from the new east/rear lot line. Number two, the Riley lot will not meet the 5-foot parking setback requirement from the new west lot line. And number three, the Riley lot will be 83% impervious, with the planned unit development as a whole remains at 79.3%. No physical changes are being made to the site. The entire proposal is administrative in nature. The changes on paper will have no impact on adjacent properties. The amount of flexibility granted with the original approval was very minor, and the additional deviations are commensurate. For these reasons, staff finds the proposal is reasonable. Staff further finds that the proposal conforms with the comprehensive plan and otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning code. Anything else from staff?
Council, I'll just mention that we do have representatives of the development team here. If you have questions for them, Garrett Duncan and Carol Lansing are in the audience.
I'll go ahead and we should make these motions separately, correct? Yep. So I'll go ahead and make the first motion to approve a resolution for both the preliminary plat and the final plat.
A second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? Councilmember Supple? Oh, sorry. No, you didn't have one. I thought you did. Councilmember Whalen.
Just want to add in, I think the Planning Commission, who had recommended this to us, had a pretty robust discussion, asked a lot of good kind of due diligence questions, but confirmed the summary in the report that this is an administrative proposal. The property owner is not doing this with the intent to sell, even if they did sell at any point in the future, that the proposed, the PUD or I'm going to get the details wrong, but basically they would not be able to do different things without coming back to the city for new approvals, and also confirmed that this would not change anything about the affordability agreements for these either apartment building. And so just want to maybe put in bold, the entire proposal is administrative in nature, not going to change anything for the current residents, the neighbors, or the community as a whole.
Okay, other comments or questions from folks? Okay, Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry about that. I was just curious in a point of order. Is there a right to request this? Do we have discretion in this matter, or is this something that we're obligated to do?
Councilmember Troutman, are you referring to the decision on the plat?
The decision on the plat to plat or not to plat.
So generally, if the applicant has met all the requirements, you should approve it.
No, thank you.
Okay, other comments or questions? Okay, the motion was made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The motions have been approved.
I think what we're going to do individual. Sorry. So I'll also make a motion to approve the resolution amending the plan unit development.
Second.
The motion was made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved.
And finally, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution vacating existing drainage and utility easements.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The motion has been approved. Thank you. The next item is the city manager's report.
Nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Claims and payroll.
I'll move approval of claims and payroll.
I'll second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded to approve claims and payroll. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you. Claims and payroll has been approved. Last item, hats off to Hometown Hits. Councilmember Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor. First, just want to encourage people to vote if you haven't already. Tonight is actually, this moment is exactly 4 weeks from polls closing. And so you can vote early over here in City Hall for Richfield residents during normal business hours. You can request to vote early by mail. You can, of course, vote on Election Day. Just note, if you typically had voted at a school in previous years, most, if not all, of our polling locations that were at schools have shifted to other nearby locations. If you want any info on any of those ways to vote, the easiest place is mnvotes.org, which will take you to the Secretary of State's website. And the last thing, having just a couple days ago finished up like over 3 weeks of people in my family having COVID, just want to remind people the pandemic is not over. COVID is serious. Thankfully, my wife and I, with many vaccines and booster shots, did not have serious cases. Our young son, who is not old enough for a vaccine, had a rougher time. It's still serious. We're all healthy now. Sorry to bury the lead there. But it's not a joke. It's not something to scoff at. So I would encourage people, certainly the new booster came out about a month or two ago. If you have not received that yet, please do. There's a community site at Mall of America that made it very easy, had a depressingly lack of a line. Would love to see more people heading there to get them, but for you, that means you won't have to wait long. And just would encourage people to keep masking, distancing, making good choices about COVID.
Thank you, Councilmember Wheeling. Councilmember Supple.
Thank you. I wanted to point out that if you are interested in becoming part of a city commission, the applications are open through the month of October, so until October 31st, and it's a great way to get involved in the community, and I would urge you to go to the city website, and if you go under the government section, and you can look under commissions and boards, and the process is explained there, so please sign up for commissions. Secondly, I wanted to do a thank you. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary may want to speak to this as well. And I believe the city manager and Councilmember Troutman were also part of this day. But I wanted to thank the Richfield firefighters. Local 1215 invited us to attend the IAFF Fire Ops 101 program. And they had set it up so that we could go through a variety of firefighting and EMS scenarios. And so we went through some of this in full gear and found out what it was like to be a firefighter and what happens. So it was an amazing experience. I learned a lot, and I've always appreciated our first responders and firefighters, but it truly, really hits home as you're crawling through that underneath the smoke with the pack and the heavy equipment on and going through all the things that they go through. And so I just wanted to thank them all for giving us that opportunity. It was very amazing.
Thank you, Councilmember Supple. Councilmember Hayford O'Leary.
Yeah, I will just say I very much agree with what Councilmember Supple said. It was a great opportunity. I guess everybody would have assumed it was hard work, but it really is hard work when you get into it, and just awkward and difficult work. And I didn't fully realize how, it's not just a matter of strength, but also skills that they've clearly put a lot of effort and time into. And it was just great to see. I feel safer knowing how well our Richfield firefighters work. So I appreciate them spending the time with us. I also wanted to mention voting. Councilmember Whalen mentioned coming up this Saturday at 9 a.m. in this very room. The League of Women Voters will have their voter forum for both the state legislature first, I believe, and then our council member at-large seat. So I will be there. I hope to see other Richfielders there as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor, and I do want to say thank you and take a hats off to our firefighters who do so much more than fight fires in Richfield, and particularly while they've always been a part of emergency service response and have been there for my family over the generations, particularly since COVID, the number of non-fire EMS calls have really gone up. And we have a great resource in our firefighters, and I'm grateful for them. I wanted to take my hats off to the Minneapolis Independence College community. They had their run two Saturdays ago, and they're a great community member and resource, and appreciated that they did that. And so with that, that's all I got.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutman. And then a couple things that I had. Okay, so you can actually here in Richfield go to Partnership Academy located at 6500 Nicollet Avenue this coming Saturday, October 15th, to get both your free flu and COVID vaccines at the same time. Take your kids, the whole family if you'd like, for children and adults, and they also have the new COVID bivalent booster as well. So free vaccines, if you want to get them all done for the whole family free and in your own backyard, go to Partnership Academy this Saturday, October 15th from 1:30 to 5:30, and you can get both flu and COVID vaccines. I did hear that they're projecting that the flu season is going to be a lot stronger this year than it has been in the past few years. So again, as Councilmember Whalen said, this is very serious, the COVID pandemic, but flu might also be a little rougher this year. So there's a lot of ways that you can go to the state website, you can go to your local pharmacies, or you can go to Partnership Academy. Wanted to just last weekend lift up a great event. I think it was the 16th annual Great Pumpkin Giveaway that we had in Fairwood Park, hosted and started by Richfield residents and small business owners, community leaders who wanted to do something for our community, and what started as something very small has now attracted hundreds and hundreds of people every year, where there's great raffles, there's bouncy castles, face painting, and kids can get pumpkins for free. But again, another great opportunity to build community started by our own residents that has just been so successful over the years that the city now partners with. But I wanted to thank our community members for attending, and a special thank you to the community leaders that have been spending the past 16 years in helping lead that. And then the last item I will say is, last week I was able to show my support for Attorney General Keith Ellison lawsuit against Fleet Farm in the sales of what we're seeing in Minnesota and in our communities. We are seeing guns being purchased legally, but not being monitored. These purchases are not being monitored responsibly by the retailers. So we have issues like people making a business by purchasing guns. And in a couple of these examples, in this case of Fleet Farm, 15 different 9mm handguns, purchasing them, reselling them to people illegally. And these are the guns that are being found in several crimes across the state of Minnesota. And so not only do we have to continue to focus on solutions in our communities, and I know we've done quite a bit with enforcement and prosecution, and we have to continue to do work in supporting our kids and our families to feel safe in their communities, but we also have to look at things like irresponsible and negligent sales, and the source of such easy access to these weapons in our communities. So I had connected with Chief and had asked about showing my support for this, and I was very proud to have that opportunity, because I think that there's multifaceted solutions and to this issue, and working upstream at the point of sale is huge in what we're seeing in Minnesota. These things are being purchased all over the state and being used in crimes all over. So I was very happy to be a part of that. And then lastly, we had the staff hot dog days. So it's an annual time for the entire staff in the city of Richfield to get together, just have hot dogs, chips, connect. And it was just nice to build community and see everyone together. It was a beautiful day outside. Fire hosted it, and I had the opportunity to connect with staff, and people were just so great, kind, really love the city, love the community they serve, and wanted to say thank you to our staff for everything they do, and I was glad I got to participate in that. So that is it. Seeing as we have no other business, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone.